Never would I compromise my integrity. Never would I compromise 28 years in law enforcement for a few folk who couldn't stand to be held accountable. And if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it again. So I'm going to the Bible when I say this to my haters. F you. The same folks who said in that report that they changed their numbers, and I did not. The report is very clear. I did not direct anyone. You should investigate those folks.
So this week, the DEI police commander of Washington, D.C. has officially resigned, coming, of course, after several months of facing heavy criticism for the fact that, first and foremost, and this is the most important, right, crime under her watch has been completely out of control in the district. After all, that is the most important metric by which to measure a police chief or commander. It's not about what race you are, whether you're the first black woman to be in the position. No, are you doing a good job at running the police department? And objectively, she has done terrible. There's a reason why the National Guard takeover and police federalization of Washington was a conversation that needed to be entertained to begin with, but it further has done her no favors that she's given us some absolute gems like not knowing what the words chain of command mean, right? Keep in mind, this is a police commander, can't define the word, and having to be bailed out by the DC Mayor Muriel Bowser. Anyone remember?
That's what the chain of command is now?
What does that mean?
Well, is it Pam Bondi speaking to the mayor, speaking to you, or how does this work?
So the executive order is clear. The president has requested MPD services, and our home rule charter outlines the process. The president designated Attorney General Bondi as his proxy to request services through me.
Yeah, and yet still, putting aside all of these obvious failures of competence, perhaps the chief reason DC Police Commander Pamela Smith was pushed out of her job is this widespread scandal and allegation, not just made by the Trump administration or conservative conspiracy theorists, but even coming directly from the DC Police Union themselves, that Pamela has been caught trying to revise the crime statistics to make it seem like crime is down when, of course, it is not. You may remember this is the very argument that mainstream media tried to use against the federalization of DC by Trump to say, actually, the district is completely safe. Look at these statistics. It turns out the crime is down. No, actually, it turns out that why actually have to do your job when you're a DEI hire when you can simply pad the stats? And so it's well established that she was basically degrading down felonies or violent assaults to like non-violent crimes and all this stuff. So you saw this very weird, mysterious trend where murder was up in DC, but violent crime was down. And those things don't seem to correlate, right? It would appear that if you're in a social environment where there's a lot of murder, you're also going to see what? A lot of carjacking, a lot of violent assaults, things like that, but she was actually just reclassifying them as like non-violent crimes. And so this is, of course, the whole story that we've talked about pretty extensively just a couple of months ago. But that said, today, I now want to turn your attention to her farewell address, right? Her saying goodbye, because if you had any doubts, any skepticism that, hey, maybe she's like the wrong scapegoat we're picking here, maybe she was actually competent at the job, right? Not a DEI hire. Well, you're about to take a listen to this, because to make a long story short, she just completely lost her mind. She said F you to the haters or something like that. She apparently started to take on the personality of like a black pastor at a church while she's giving a farewell address to a police department. The whole thing is like completely strange, completely inappropriate. So let's get into this, guys. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We greatly appreciate it. And well, that said, let us just take a listen here to the excuse making, the meltdown as, the amazing police chief herself, so good at fighting crime and tackling issues, right? Explains her little goodbye message, right?
But I dare not leave without saying something to my haters. Listen, I know you taught me well. We were raised in the church, Bible study, Sunday school, BTU, choir rehearsal, Wednesday night Bible study, Tuesday night Bible study, children's choir, you name it. There's enough Jesus in me that's going to get me to heaven if I die tomorrow. But watch this. You've taught me well, and I just need you to just follow me with this just for a few moments, Mom. Because listen, I listened to her even at 50-something years old. There's nothing, she pretends like we don't listen to her, but we do. So, as I close, to the partners that are here, thank you. Thank you for your support, and thank you for showing up every single day. Target, thank you. I appreciate you. I adored the work that we did in our community together and to literally drive down crime in our establishments. Make no mistake about it. You can say what you want to say, but I live in this city and I felt it myself. I felt the shift. And I'm going to say it again. I never, and never will, and never would have encouraged, intimidated, retaliated, or told anyone to change their numbers. Never would I have done that. That is not my character. That is not who I am. That is not a part of the person in which God created me to be. I have to walk in the light. And see, the only thing I just want to...
Okay, so already notice she doesn't deny that there was a revising of the crime statistics under her watch. Her big grand excuse is simply her claiming, who knows how true that is, that, well, she never encouraged or pushed for it. So what's the alternative excuse? What, people were just doing it right under your watch and you didn't seem to notice? Because everyone could tell that Washington, D.C. was dangerous. Just going to point that out again. These allegations don't come from like some right-wing podcaster, right? It originated in the D.C. Police Union. And even just this week, just a couple of days ago, we got a report out of a House investigation. So there's many levels of this right now, confirming indeed that the left-wing D.C. police chief had indeed falsified the crime statistics. Yes, cooking the books to make it seem like the city was much safer than it actually was. Take a listen.
Led House Oversight Committee now releasing a report accusing the outgoing D.C. police chief of manipulating data to artificially lower crime statistics. Bill Malusian looking at the numbers. He's live on the Hill with this. Bill, what you find out?
Bill, good morning to you. Those House Oversight Committee Republicans say the bottom line of what their investigation found is that the outgoing D.C. police chief was essentially cooking the books on crime data and trying to make the city seem a whole lot safer than it really was. Now, those House Republicans say what their investigation consisted of was interviewing all 7 commanders of D.C. Metro Police's patrol districts, including a former commander who is currently suspended for allegedly tampering with crime stats in his own district. And these are some of the conclusions they've made in their report. They allege that D.C. Metro Police Chief Pamela Smith pressured commanders to report lower crime stats by any means necessary. The commanders testified that Chief Smith even pushed them to pursue lesser charges that aren't publicly reported, even for serious crimes, and she required certain crimes to be reviewed by her office.
Oh, that's funny. I think I remember a certain YouTube channel that was speaking about this months ago. Yeah, I think it was ours, right?
Now, the report also says police commanders testified that Chief Smith punished them and retaliated against them if they tried to report accurate rising crime data, even berating them in meetings and individually to pressure them into reporting those lower crime figures. Now, in a statement on the report, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer says in part, quote, Chief Pamela Smith coerced staff to report artificially low crime data and cultivated a culture of fear to achieve her agenda.
Yeah, so by now we have multiple different entities that are all investigating the issue and reaching the same exact conclusion. No, indeed, this absolutely did happen. And before you ask the question of why does it matter now, hey, this is a scandal from several months to several years ago. The National Guard is now in D.C. The Metro Police has been federalized. She's resigning. Who really cares? Let me explain to you, because this is deeper than simply, oh, they lied. Yes, Democrats have lied about many different things. It's first and foremost the fact that not only were they lying about the perception of public safety, but they were also in the process undermining public safety itself, because it's worth noting that this wasn't an issue if they were just simply making up fake numbers. That'd be kind of hard to do. What they were instead trying to do was downgrade violent crimes to, like non-violent misdemeanors, right? So this is to say that things like violent assaults, violent carjackings, they put those to lesser crimes. And it's worth noting about that's not just the thing where it's like woke ideology or we laugh at it. No, what happens in return is that the criminals who were committing these crimes, this is very important, were getting slaps on the wrists, lighter jail time, if at all, likely just put on probation and put back out onto the streets. And so that's very important to point out. This whole crime classification thing is not just about lying to make it seem like the city is safer. No, it actually makes the city more dangerous because it's an incentive structure to allow more violent criminals to go out onto the streets. And let us not forget, by the way, even amidst all of this, right? What have we heard from mainstream media and Democrats about the whole National Guard situation? They have ruthlessly demonized the very patriots who are now in our nation's capital trying to keep it safe. I was just there a couple weeks ago, and all the crap you hear about martial law and all this. No, they're just peacefully standing in the metro station, making sure no one gets hurt, making sure there's no Irina Zarutska situation. They're very nice people, and like literally the slander about them has been insane. We've had Democrat senators going out and encouraging them to basically commit sedition and insurrection against the president, all this garbage. But all of that, right? All the rhetoric you've heard, all the baseless slander that, by the way, let's not forget, likely resulted in acts of violence and terrorism against our National Guard members in DC. Yes, this stuff has all had consequences. Let's remember what happened on Thanksgiving week. All of that you've heard, that they've done, by the way, that terrorists have now done against the National Guard, that they're such bad guys, the woke judges trying to kick them out, all this garbage, right? Has all been built on a false premise. It's been built on a lie. And so if you ask me, I know that it's kind of an accepted fact by now that nobody really faces accountability who's ever in government. But I would argue Pamela Smith here, the DC police commander, likely has a lot more to answer for than simply just resigning when it comes to the cover-up of crime statistics. I mean, that is something that, frankly, in my eyes should be illegal. I would think it is, right? But anyways, let's keep listening here now to how she's not going to really address any of that. Instead, she's just going to do whatever this is. Okay, I don't even know how to explain it. Let's just take a listen. You'll see what I mean.
And I'm getting there, Mom. Because as old Baptist preachers say we're closing 3 or 4 times. And I'm really closing right now. I see you, Monica. And to my family that's here, there's some folks that came in from Staten Island, New York, who have known me for well over how many years, Pastor Brown? Since I first came to Staten Island when I graduated from college. That's how long these folks have known. They know my character. I preached in their churches. I preached all across the United States of America. Never mind, because some of y'all think it, but it's okay. So I'm going to the Bible when I say this to my haters. F you.
I'm pretty sure that's not in the Bible, but okay.
No, it's not a drop the mic moment. Watch me in this space. I forgive you. I forgive you. Because the Bible makes it very clearly. When Jesus was hanging on the cross, what he said to us, Father, even in the pit of agony and defeat, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. God bless you and God keep you. It has been my pleasure to serve the District of Columbia for 2.5 years. It does not matter what goes on from here, but as the mayor said, there's greater things in store for Pamela A. Smith. Mama, I love you. Papa D, I love you. Family, I love you. Let's move on and do what God has called us to be. My church is coming soon. Stand by.
What did we just watch? This, by the way, is a farewell address to a police department, okay? And look, as it pertains to forgiveness, let me just say, yes, we are all in desperate need of forgiveness. We are all sinners. That part is true. But specifically as it pertains to the failures of policing in Washington, D.C., Commander Smith, I'm pretty sure it's you in this case who needs to ask for forgiveness, right? The so-called haters The critics who, by the way, were exposing the truth about the actual nature of crime in Washington, D.C., I'm not sure they're the ones who did anything wrong here, right? By the way, the exploding crime problem in Washington, D.C. is not the fault of your haters. It's not what your haters need to be asking forgiveness for. It's most likely you, okay? You know, you want to quote the Bible. I'm pretty sure the Bible teaches us that it's a fundamental duty to protect the innocent, which you, of course, simply failed to do intentionally, in a sense, right? But after all, what should we expect? I mean, this is an extremely typical strategy out of leftists where they absolutely hate and despise and want to remove Christianity from America 6 out of the 7 days of the week. But whenever they start to lose an argument, they always resort to some vague biblical principle to say that after all, you know, Jesus would want you to allow violent terrorists into your nation through an open border because don't you know, there's vaguely something in the Bible about love thy neighbor. And it's like, what are you even talking about? No, don't you know Jesus was a refugee? No, he wasn't. He migrated from one part of the same empire to another. He didn't really cross international border. Oh, no, just trust me on this, right? Jesus. And in this case, okay, apparently, Jesus would want us to forgive the violent criminal, not in a moral or spiritual sense, but simply, 72-time repeat offender. Yeah, let's keep on letting them out of jail to continue to terrorize the innocent, because apparently that's what Christianity is all about. Don't you know it's a fundamentally leftist religion because leftists love terrorizing the innocent, and so does the Bible. No, that's not the case at all. But, I guess when you actually can't defend yourself on the issue, it's very easy to just, pretend she's some type of pastor at a black church or something. Nobody really knows. She is, of course, struggling to answer for the fact she was a terrible police commander. Again, if anyone needs to seek forgiveness in this situation, specifically on crime enforcement, you would think it should be her. But anyways, that said, it doesn't even stop there because according to James Comer this week, DC police commanders not only stated that Pamela Smith pressured staff to cook the books on crime data, so many people around her are saying, no, indeed, she did do this, but they've further also confirmed that President Trump's law and order surge in DC is effective. So, I mean, I could take that and say, hey, forgive the leftists. They didn't understand what they were doing, right? They were demonizing this. They were being haters. And, it turns out it actually worked. It turns out that the protection of the innocent and the lowering of crime worked a lot better under our approach than yours. Although that shouldn't be surprising because it's rooted in something very basic called common sense. Hey, maybe criminals should be arrested. Hey, maybe putting more armed officers, whether that's law enforcement or National Guard, out onto the streets and showing a presence is a natural deterrence from crime. But anyways, Commander H here was asked, have you found the surge to be helpful in your district? The commander here responds, yeah, I would be lying if I said it didn't. It did. It really helped. It mainly helped my property crime numbers. In other words, people stopped stealing stuff. Because of the DC takeover here. But of course, let's ignore all of that because don't you know, she's a strong black independent woman in this position, and how dare you use data and metrics to accuse her of doing a bad job? You must just be a racist or something. Same thing, how dare you look at crime statistics on either side of it, right? Does that make you a racist? Apparently it does. That said, guys, so let me know your thoughts. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.